The siren screamed through the night as smoke filled the narrow street. A homeless woman named Grace huddled under an old bridge, clutching her torn blanket for warmth. But when she smelled the thick scent of burning wood, she looked up and froze. A small house nearby was on fire. Through the glowing haze, she heard it, a child's terrified cry. Without thinking twice, Grace ran barefoot across the street. Her thin hands shielded her face as she pushed through the smoke. "Hold on, baby! I'm coming!" she shouted, coughing as heat scorched her skin. She found a little boy trembling beside a toppled crib. Grace wrapped him in her blanket and stumbled out, just as the roof began to collapse behind her. The fire roared, but the boy was safe in her arms. Paramedics rushed in, taking the child away. Grace stood in the shadows, soot-streaked, shaking from exhaustion. No one noticed her. No one asked her name. She slipped away quietly, her only comfort the child's faint, sleepy whisper. "Thank you, Angel." Minutes later, a black limousine screeched to a halt. A man in a sharp suit jumped out, his eyes wild with fear. "Where's my son?" he shouted. When he learned the child had been saved by a homeless woman who vanished, his voice broke. "Find her," he ordered, his heart pounding. "Find the woman who saved my boy." He had no idea that the woman he was searching for had once been someone he knew. The next morning, headlines blazed. "Homeless woman saves CEO's son from fire, then disappears." Reporters swarmed the scene, but no one could find her. In his glass tower downtown, Ethan Cole, the billionaire CEO of Cole Industries, sat in silence, holding his son, Noah. The little boy was safe, but shaken. "Daddy," Noah whispered. "The angel saved me." Ethan's throat tightened. "We'll find her, buddy. I promise." Despite his wealth, Ethan felt helpless. He ordered his team to search every shelter, every hospital, every corner of the city. He even went out himself, dressed down, searching the streets his chauffeurs had never driven through. Meanwhile, Grace wandered alone. Her hands were blistered, her lungs burned, but she didn't care. She was just thankful the boy was alive. She hadn't saved him for recognition, only because she couldn't stand watching another innocent suffer. That night, she found an old church where volunteers served hot soup. She sat quietly in the corner, covering her bandaged arms. When a nurse asked her name, she hesitated. "Grace," she whispered. The nurse smiled. "That's fitting. You've got the face of someone who's done something good." Grace lowered her eyes. "Not really," she murmured. "I've made too many mistakes." But across town, Ethan's investigators finally found a lead. A woman matching the witness's description had been seen near St. Mark's Church. Ethan didn't wait. He jumped into his car and sped off into the night. When he arrived, Grace was stepping out into the cold again, ready to disappear once more. But this time, headlights swept over her, and a familiar voice called out desperately. "Grace! Is that really you?" Her heart stopped. She turned slowly, eyes wide. The man standing before her wasn't a stranger. He was her ex-fiancé, the father of the boy she just saved. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The icy wind carried the silence between them, heavy with years of pain. Grace's lips trembled as she whispered, "Ethan, what are you doing here?" He stepped closer, his eyes glistening. "Looking for the woman who saved my son. I didn't know it was you." Grace lowered her gaze, ashamed of the soot on her face, the torn coat, the worn-out shoes. "You shouldn't have come. I'm not the person you once knew." Ethan shook his head. "You saved Noah's life, Grace. You're exactly the person I remember, selfless, brave, and stubborn." Her heart twisted. Memories rushed back, their shared dreams, their laughter, and the night she'd walked away when her life fell apart. After her mother's death and a failed business venture, Grace had vanished, choosing the streets over letting Ethan see her broken. "I didn't want you to see me like this," she said, tears welling. "I lost everything. My job, my home, my pride." Ethan's voice softened. "You didn't lose everything. You still have your heart. That's what saved my boy." Grace shook her head. I don't belong in your world anymore. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small locket, tarnished but familiar. You left this behind, he said quietly. I've kept it all these years. Grace stared at it, her breath catching. Inside was their picture, two people who once believed love could fix anything. I never stopped looking for you, Ethan admitted. And now, I finally found you. Grace turned away, tears streaming down her cheeks. Maybe it's too late, she whispered. But as Noah's small voice echoed from the car, Daddy, that's the angel. Grace's resolve began to crumble. Grace froze when she heard the little boy's voice. She turned, and there he was, Noah, smiling from the car window, a bandage on his forehead but his eyes full of light. Daddy, that's her, he said excitedly. That's the angel who saved me. Grace's heart melted. She walked slowly toward the car, kneeling beside him. Hey, little hero, she whispered. How are you feeling? He grinned. Because of you, I'm okay. Daddy says you're brave. Grace blinked away tears. She didn't feel brave. She felt tired, lost, and undeserving. But seeing Noah safe made it all worth it. Ethan stepped closer, watching the scene quietly. Grace, please, he said softly. Come with us. You need medical help, food, rest, everything you once gave up. Let me do this for you. Grace hesitated. Ethan, I can't. People like me don't just walk into mansions. He sighed. Then let me remind you, before the world called me a CEO, you believed in me when no one else did. Now let me believe in you. Her eyes widened at his sincerity. For a moment, she saw not the powerful man he'd become, but the boy she once loved, the man who used to dream with her beneath city lights. Noah reached out his small hand. Please come home, Angel, he said innocently. Grace felt her walls crumble. She placed her trembling hand in his. All right, she whispered. Just for a while. Ethan smiled, relief flooding his face. He opened the car door, helping her inside gently. As the car drove away, Grace stared out the window, unsure of what awaited her. For the first time in years, she wasn't running from her past, she was being driven toward a new beginning. The car glided through the city lights, carrying Grace toward a life she never thought she'd see again. When they arrived at Ethan's mansion, she hesitated at the gate, staring at the grand home glowing softly in the night. I don't belong here, she whispered. Ethan smiled gently. You belong wherever kindness lives. And this place could use more of it. Inside, the staff rushed to care for her wounds, but Grace felt uneasy surrounded by wealth she had once only seen from afar. Then Noah appeared, holding a cup of hot cocoa. Daddy says you're staying, he said shyly. I made this for you. Grace's eyes filled with tears. Thank you, sweetheart. She sipped the warm drink, feeling something she hadn't felt in years, peace. Later that evening, Ethan joined her on the terrace. The night was quiet except for the faint sound of crickets. You saved the most important person in my life, he said softly. Let me help you rebuild yours. Grace shook her head. I didn't do it for anything in return, Ethan. I know, he said. That's why you deserve everything. For a moment, their eyes met, and in that silence, old wounds began to heal. Weeks passed, and Grace slowly regained her strength. Ethan helped her find a new purpose. She began volunteering at a shelter, helping others who lost hope, just as she once had. One day, Noah handed her a handmade drawing, 3 people holding hands beneath a bright sun. On top, he'd written, My family. Grace looked at Ethan, tears in her eyes. For the first time, she didn't feel like an outsider. She finally realized, sometimes, life takes everything away, just to give you back something far more precious.